gentlemen. Welcome to the latest episode of our virtual panel discussion, Connected Experiences, the next big thing in consumer electronics, brought to you in association with Gupshup.
Recording in progress.
Consumer electronics has always been at the forefront of technological advancements. The segment has always been quick to respond to consumer needs and bridge the gap with cutting-edge technologies. Today's well-informed consumers are moving towards a fully connected world as they leverage social media and other digital channels to gain a better understanding of their favorite brands in terms of promise, product features, and pricing. The entire customer journey is driven by expectations of speed and same-day grievance redressals, hyper-personalization, frictionless experiences across different channels, and seamlessness. And technology plays the role of an enabler here. In fact, with time, technology has impacted all aspects of the consumer electronics business, be it with product supremacy, retail channel engagement, personalized experiences for users, and now with intelligent packaging solutions. Connected packaging takes the consumer experience to an all-new level by leveraging QR codes or image recognition software through a browser-based app to take customers on a connected experience where they can find product information, discounts, interactive games, or even VR experiences. When you combine connected packaging with conversational messaging, you can make the entire electronics customer experience seamless. As the consumer goods industry preps to reach the $300 billion production mark by 2026, will connected experiences with customers be an indicator for their success? Today's discussion looks at the changes the industry is witnessing with the focus on connected experiences and the role that tools like conversational messaging play in that. I'm your host, Sunita Tandon, Assistant Editor at Mint, and it's my absolute pleasure to welcome the esteemed panel for today's discussion. I'll start by introducing our panel. We have with us Balaji Hariharan, Head of Product and Senior Director at Samsung India. Welcome to the panel discussion, Balaji.
Thank you, Sunita. It's a pleasure to be here.
Thanks. Next, we have Prashant Jain, Chief Marketing Officer at HP. Welcome to the show, Prashant.
Thanks, Sunita. Great to be here.
Next, we have Mehernosh Pitawala, who is Head Brands and Strategic Insights at Godrej & Boyce. Welcome to the show. Next, we have Bankim Shah, who is Director Conversational Messaging Technology at Gupshup. Welcome to the show, Bankim.
Hey, thanks, Sunita. Hi, everyone. Pleasure to be here.
Great. So I'll sort of, start this panel discussion. And my first question is to Mr. Balaji. Just help me understand, in a post-pandemic world, digital engagements are at the heart of how enterprises connect with their customers across the entire life cycle, right from product delivery to after-sales experiences. At Samsung, which is one of the world's leaders in consumer electronics space, how are you redefining consumer experience and expanding ecosystems to create better customer experiences?
I think that's a great question. And really thank you, Sunita, for kickstarting the show with the consumer talking points, right? So consumer is the king, as they say. So I'm going to share a few examples outside of Samsung that a lot of us can relate to, and within Samsung also, so that it kind of completes the story, right? I don't know if you guys noticed about Revlon, the world famous cosmetics, filed for bankruptcy a few weeks back. And then, of course, now the shares have soared about 650% because there's a big buyer queue. And if you go a little deep, right, like one of the possible reasons is that the cosmetic brands that have opened by celebrities and influencers like Rihanna, Kylie, etc. I think consumers are buying them and not the established brands. The reason, I know it's not consumer electronics, this is a focus of the show, but the reason I brought that up is because you can be any big brand, we can be a world leader, etc. But sometimes if we lose touch with what the consumer needs are, the consumer moves away, right? So today is a world of choice. And it's no different in consumer electronics, especially in mobile phones, right? It's a commodity today, right? Like there are like hundreds of phones in the market today. And So Samsung kind of does a few things to differentiate and to from the rest of our competitors and other brands, right? So the first thing and foremost thing is like there are multiple teams that go and talk to consumers. That's the first starting point, right? While we can sit back and say that, hey, we know about mobile phones, we've been building this for the last 20 plus years, the consumer needs are changing rapidly, especially in the post-COVID world, right? I'll actually share examples of some simple innovations that we have done, right? That have woven our customers. I think all of us are literally bored sitting inside homes and want to go out, right? That's been the case. Now, thanks to the world is expressing itself. One of the features that we launched was on the lock screen, where you actually put your the iris scan or the password to enter the phone, right? We call it the lock screen. We partnered with one of the companies, and the goal was there to just put some wonderful looking wallpapers, right? Just bring a smile on the face of the consumer, even before the consumer experiences phone. Like probably I'm in a hurry to go get into a meeting, to message someone, to call a loved one, to book a Uber, whatever, right? But that's the first starting screen. We call the screen 0, and bring a smile. Just put a nice scenery. I mean, the photo of a nice Goa beach that all of us were desperate to go there in the last 2 years, etc. Whatever, right? So bring a smile. That was the first example. The other example is like important change that happened was all of us, especially in metros, started buying things online, like food, groceries, everything. Literally everything has become online, right? So and all of us are like thrown tons of OTPs, right? It's a wonderful technology to secure our digital presence. And there are some wonderful players, like there is a SMS app. They kind of extract only the OTP and put it there. You can just click and copy, etc. What we did at Samsung was a little thing. Whenever you're there in the OTP screen and an OTP comes on the keyboard, right? Like anyway, you're typing using a keyboard. So on this top of the keyboard, you would extract the same OTP and say that, hey, is it 1, 2, 3, 4? Your job is to just press it, and then you're done, right? It's a wonderful little innovation, I would say. But trust me, when you do such things, like consumers go to Twitter or to our Samsung members community and thank us. This is a life-saving thing, right? Because if you're entering 100 OTPs in a month, it is definitely a life-saving one, right? The other example I would give you of a little innovation there was what we call as Alt Z, right? I mean, all of us are thankfully been spending great time with the family in the last 2 years, right? Which means, unlike in the US and in other countries, there is this habit within all of us where we kind of grab our spouse's phone or our children's phone, our parents' phone, and start kind of taking out, hey, what's happening in their lives, right? It's perfectly okay in India, and of course, but people also want privacy within friends, right? Like, let's say we go for a lunch, and then like my friend is checking out my photos, or the family party, and then we are just casting some old photo memories. And I don't want some private photo of mine with my spouse or with my children to come up in that, right? So what we did was, on the power button of certain mobile phones, you can just double tap, right, before handing off the phone, right? Because someone is grabbing the phone or handing it. So you're already in an embarrassing situation, right? You can't open it and say like, hey, give me 2 minutes, let me block all that photos. You don't have the time for all of that. And it might be embarrassing for the other person as well. So what we did was, on the power button, 1 time is power on, 2 times you just tap, right? And then the phone magically goes into a private mode, right? So all your messages, your photos, even things like your Aadhaar card, driving license, which your bank statements, you might have downloaded all of those, right? Everything is hidden from the view, and it's a publicly viewable phone now, right? Little innovation. It's not there anywhere else in the world. It's such an India-only use case, right? So we did that. People love it, right? Another example is, I mean, all of us still going out, and then like you want to scan the QR, right, for a payment like a UPI or a Paytm or a Samsung Pay or a Google Pay, whatever it is, right? The general experience, all of us, it's so seamless. And we had to open our phone, unlock it, open one of those payment apps, a few clicks there, scan it, and then put in your UPI number, right? So what we did was, like, this was launched a couple of months back, which is our own voice assistant, which is called Bixby, where you can just tell Bixby, "Hi Bixby, just scan the QR," right? You don't even need to unlock the phone at that point, and then Bixby comes up with the QR scan in one click, which used to be like 10 to 15 clicks, is now just like one click, scan, and then type in your UPI. Of course, it's protected. You have to still unlock because it's a secure transaction. And then you do that and then go in, right? So what are these examples telling us, right? Is that customers in different parts of the world are different, and they are common as well, right? So what we have is called as the product management team, which is part of the larger consumer experiences team in Samsung. Their job is to go understand the consumers in different places, even within India, right? Like the way one consumes TikTok like small content, I might be consuming it from Instagram, whereas you might be doing it in Facebook or Moj or somewhere else. So the differences are there. So it's to understand what customers really want, what really they don't want. Both are important. And then kind of find patterns and then build products suiting them, right? And in large number of cases, the world customer is an Indian customer too. So things like that, you actually build for India or build for the world, and then take it to the rest of the world. Right? So net, I think the starting point is as consumer, talk to them. There is a huge risk in sitting in AC rooms and building products for them. And trust me, the consumers are very, very smart. They won't tell you that the product is bad. They'll just move on. So it's absolutely worth the effort to go talk to consumers, figure out what do they want, and then start from that and start building these interesting products.
Right. And how often do you do this kind of consumer research? Really, is that quite frequent?
Very frequent, Sunira, right? So there are multiple kinds of consumer research we do, one is organized, right? That is a little more infrequent, I would say, like once a month or once a couple of months, right? Depending on a specific thing. Like, for example, we want to target all women customers in the age of 25 to 30 and figure out their camera needs for the next phone in Assam, right? That's just an example, right? So that is more done in a more methodical, structural cadence, like a monthly cadence, etc. But thankfully, we are in a space where like everyone is using a phone or everyone is addicted to a phone. So I can just do a simple consumer research by talking to my spouse, by talking to my parents, by talking to my neighbor, right? And checking out like, hey, what phone do you use? What do you like? What you don't like? What do you want in your next phone, etc. Right? So we have that advantage of just talking to your community or to your friends in office, etc. So that is done in a very infrequent but a lot more regular manner.
Right. Great. Let me sort of broaden that, conversation by bringing Prashant's perspective. Prashant, the pandemic has led to the emergence of a stay-at-home economy where consumers can fulfill a majority of their needs without having to step outside their homes. So how did HP adapt to changing consumer preferences, especially as demand for IT products skyrocketed in the last 2 years?
Sure. So, actually not only demand, the big change which has happened is actually in usage, right? So even existing customers who were owning products have just now started using them 2x, 3x more than what they were doing earlier. And therefore, let me just reverse the answer a bit and maybe first talk about how do you help existing customers who are sitting at home and are now using the product, they bought 2 years, 3 years back, and they are probably using it 8 hours, 10 hours a day. And therefore, what happens with that is that there's a spike in service calls, right? Because these customers are suddenly, they need a lot more help than what they did earlier. There are students who are using a PC, for example, for the first time and are, going through, hell, along with a lot of teachers who are doing online teaching for the first time, right? And therefore, a lot of the innovation actually, for us started on day one of the pandemic. Uh, some of these innovations, obviously, we had been piloting for a bit, but then the pandemic just made some of these use cases indispensable. So the first one really was, can you do remote troubleshooting? And we built this capability which we call Live Lens, where we can do a remote video troubleshooting. There is agent obviously sitting on the other side, sends you a link on your mobile phone. The link opens in a Chrome browser, and just your switches on your camera, lets the guy see through what's happening, and a large number of issues you can just troubleshoot because you have visual connection with the product, right? And you can guide the user to sometimes do it herself. Yeah. The other big thing is that you suddenly had lines jammed because there were so many people calling, right? So a very simple connected experience of a web call me back. You just come in, you key in your warranty number, your registered numbers, and then the agent just calls you back with the information which you would have otherwise waited on a call for a long time, and then keyed in the information, and then lost your temper on the agent because he took a lot of time to retrieve your information and so on, right? And then there was lots of other things like which need a physical intervention at home, but customers were not. We had customers who were in containment zones, and they wanted devices repaired. So we had to not only arrange pickups and drops with fixed devices, but we actually created this mobile service vans which would go station outside containment zones, and then take the device, fix them, and return them back. Yeah. So that's on the service side, and a lot more had to happen with dedicated agents for students. And for a long time, we actually have those lines still open, dedicated to students. And at that time, actually, we opened it across brands. We didn't differentiate between HP and non-HP products. See, the other big change which was obviously happening was on shopping, right? And while e-commerce and online store, etc., were available, there were still a good 40-50% shoppers who said that, hey, I still trust the nearest store, and that's where I want to buy from. And therefore, you had to create a connected experience where you could do a video demo, take an online payment, and then deliver it home, even if it is happening from a store nearby. I think on the product side, Balaji gave so many interesting examples, and I think the last 2.5 years probably has been an innovator's delight that way, right? Because you've just had a chance to put out solutions to so many of these problems, right? So for HP, and let me talk a bit more from a PC perspective, whether it's camera quality on the PCs, for an average PC, the camera quality, we know it was never great because it wasn't a big use case for the longest time. And now suddenly video quality and camera quality have become such a big use case that you had to innovate, and you had to put in great video quality. You had to put in 5-megapixel cameras, which customers were seeking, and then simple things like autofocus, right? You want to move around when you are even in a virtual setting, and therefore now the HP Presence technology comes with an autofocus where the camera moves as you move. There is problems of sharing files across ecosystems, right? Because suddenly we saw traffic on file sharing increased by multiple notches, but then there were people sitting in Android systems and iOS, and then of course Windows, which continues to be the dominant ecosystem, and files had to be shared across PCs, and we therefore saw huge uptake for connected experiences which we created around HP apps, which help you share files across ecosystem instantaneously. And then, as I said, usage increased so much that we innovated with blue light filters inbuilt into screens, anti-glare filters built into screens, so that they are easy on your eyes, even when you are using the system for a long time. Yeah. So yeah, that's what I would summarize. Innovations honestly across service, product and shopping experiences, happened during this time.
Right. So clearly quite an innovator's years, last 2 years were, as you said, Prashant. Moving on, Mehnosh, Godrej and Boyce was quick to introduce an array of products such as thermal cameras, cash sterilizers, video door phones to cater to changing consumer needs after the pandemic hit. What mediums did you use to gather consumer insights and convert them into meaningful business discussions?
Yeah, thanks for the question. So the question that you've asked is specific to Godrej Security Solutions, which is one of the 15 divisions or businesses of Godrej and Boyce, right? So if you were to see, the products essentially are designed and launched as a part of an endeavor to meet the current challenging needs and the need gaps across homes, workspaces, and across industries such as oil, gas, BFSI, defense, police, infrastructure, airports, seaports, hospitals, and many others. Actually, when Godrej Security Solutions was founded, we were only into safes. But slowly and steadily, we've expanded significantly into electronic security solutions as well. And right now, it is the leading player in future of technologies of security solutions into the health segment with the COVID defense security range of products that was launched in May 2020. So to meet the growing demands of products in the health security space, Godrej launched multiple products like the UV case, which is used to sterilize a lot of objects that come into your house, thermal imaging cameras, gas sterilizers, video door phones. And all of this product portfolio addresses the issue of sanitizing daily objects, equipment, and surfaces that come in contact with several people before entering a premises, to ensuring minimum human interface through contactless video door phones. So we've got video door phones for homes as well, and thermal cameras, thus ensuring physical and health security. So all these products are designed to adhere the directives for social distancing as per the norms of MHA, which highlights touch-free mechanism. Our venture into health security systems was preceded by a new study. That is a question that you asked, and it was the cocoon effect on home and health security, which states India's security gap is currently experiencing a dramatic shift as consumers take major responsibility for their home and health security. So the research actually helped us in identifying trends, spaces, and emerging opportunities for Godrej business in the post-COVID arena. Products under the health security segment will help you to increase the impact and importance on unmanned security technologies to secure cities as well as public spaces. We believe that the potential in this space is phenomenal, and we'll witness more investments by customers given the rising adoption rate and demand for home and health security products. So to sum it up, we did a lot of research when the COVID came in. We spoke to a lot of consumers. We already had a lot of security products which were available. We either launched new products, or what we did was we tweaked them in order to ensure contactless operations. Thank you.
Right. But I just want to understand, now that the pandemic is sort of easing out, cases are dropping, of course, it's on a rise again. What is the demand and what is the consumer outlook towards health security products? As you mentioned, is the demand still high, or it's still, where do you think it is?
That's a good question. So I'll be very honest. The demand for UV cases, which is essentially used to sanitize daily objects when they come into your house, has dropped significantly. But when it comes to cameras, when it comes to access control systems, when it comes to face recognition systems, more and more people want contactless entry. And that is where a lot of technology that we are bringing into the country right now, which is with respect to completely contactless technology, is being adopted by a lot of B2B customers. If I were to talk about B2C customers, there was a significant uptake with respect to demand for video door phones. So actually seeing the person, outside your house without having able to open it and communicate with him. So that has also significantly increased. We have actually launched video door phones, which are completely contactless. So you don't need to press the bell at all. All you need to do is just a gesture, and the person inside will know that there is someone outside. So security products, the demand for such security products has increased. But for products like a UV case, which demands, scanning each and every object coming to your house, has reduced. And I think it was obvious. A lot of people actually launched UV cases, when the pandemic started, but the demand for UV cases has reduced.
Right, but do you expect it to come back at all, or you think there is no use?
No, I don't think so. It will come back, because now with the vaccines coming in, people are not going to take the trouble of kind of sanitizing everything that comes into the house.
Right. Great. Moving on, Bankim, connected experiences leverage data from automated processes and self-learning softwares to build meaningful relationships with customers across channels. How can this be combined with the power of conversational messaging to take consumer experience to the very next stage?
Yes. Hey, thanks, Sunira. Thanks, everyone. So I think it was great to hear fellow panelists and the efforts that that are going in to take the consumer experiences to the next level. And while a lot of things are happening in terms of at product level to take it to the next level of, say, frictionless experience to the consumers, there's still a lot of things that could be done more on, let's say, the customer engagement part of it, which could not be just on the product phase, but across multiple stages. So if I set a context, the way you see the entire digital, changes have evolved, right? Computers came, say, in the 80s in India, right? It followed up with the internet. Then we had early 2000, we had these mobile phones, right? We all know that Reliance mobile phone, and suddenly everybody had a mobile phones. Then social media came in. And then the next thing that you have seen the last few years is, the messaging platforms, right? So we all are on, some other messaging platform, which is there, be it a WhatsApp, Facebook, Instagram, Twitter, Viber, so on and so forth. So it's a very, a very systematic change that has happened over the years. And the current era that we are seeing is primarily dominated by messaging as a platform, right? Now, when messaging happens, right? So while we connect with each other, with friends and family, right, in a very natural, intuitive way, that's what we are seeing, happening between consumers and the brands as well, right? Because consumers love it, right? Let's be honest. I would love to have a very natural and intuitive, interaction with even a brand. Why with just, my friends and family? So if you look at it, a very interesting analogy is there's a very fundamental difference in the way, things are now evolving in the messaging platform. When I go to a website or a mobile app, right, which I've been doing until now, in the past few years, I'm essentially thinking like a computer, right? Whenever I'm doing a purchase or browsing through either of a pre-purchase or, purchase support journeys, I'm having a menu button, radio button, submit button, a lot of tables and stuff. That's not my language. That's the language of the computer. But one of the reasons why this phenomenon of messaging is increasingly being leveraged upon, or has come to much at the forefront, is because through this technology of conversational messaging, now we are forcing computers to think like humans, right? And that's the fundamental shift. So now I would be typing in a statement that, hi, say, show me the products which you have certain X and Y qualities, and this conversational messaging, which will be enabled by a bot, that bot would be able to understand what the person is trying to say, figure out the intent and entities out of it, and then come back with a response. So in a sense, now we are forcing computers to think like humans, and then it essence is like a very fundamental difference between the way things are happening on website versus the way things are now forecasted to happen, or already started happening on these messaging platforms. So it's a paradigm shift now. If you look at it, right now, you're able to connect audience on the platform that they're most comfortable with, which is, let's say, a WhatsApp for some, or let's say a Facebook Messenger for, for many others. And you're also interacting with them in a language that is very natural and intuitive to them, right? So you're bypassing two of the most important friction points for a customer. And when you bypass those friction points, right, it just leads to increased engagement and customer support and loyalty, whatever you may want to call it at. And as and eventually boils down to the bottom line of the companies, right? So that's where things are headed towards in terms of we call it a paradigm shift at Gupshup, and we each of us believes in that. You've seen the power of various examples, the way conversational messaging can come to the fore. For example, let's say in the case of the consumer electronics as an industry, right? So a customer could just type in a statement which says, hi, show me the latest refrigerators that you have, which would save me some electricity, and which is about, say, 250 liters of capacity, right? So you could have that kind of an engagement, and the bot at the other end would understand all of these entities and what the person is wanting to say, and say come back with a specific response of, let's say, those 2 or 3 specific items which fit his criteria. So that's one level of conversation that happens. But now you could also maintain the context, right? So now the next time, let's say instead of a WhatsApp, I'm on a Facebook, right? And I type in hi, once again, and the bot essentially has the context of what I spoke to on, let's say, WhatsApp, and comes back on Facebook stating, hi, last you inquired about this refrigerator. What about it? You want that, or maybe you want look at these 2 or 3 different more relevant items that we have for you in the same segment, right? So that's now you could take those same conversational experiences to multi-channel, and the whole point is we are present across so many different channels. So brands need to be there across these platforms while being able to connect with audiences, from where they left off. So being able to converse in a natural, intuitive language, being able to be omni-channel, and then there's that's further next level of the way advancement in AI would happen. And you could bring in voice, you could bring in video, right? So, but the bottom line, if you look at it, would be that I'm just connecting with the brand the very same way I would connect with friends and family, and that I think is a huge shift in the way the entire engagement between brands and customers are happening. Also, if I have to say, if you read a lot of research reports, it is expected that by is not only one of the fastest growing industries in terms of conversational messaging, but also I think by on various counts by 26 or by 2027, almost 80% of all these transactions that are happening would be happening on messaging platforms, right? So there's an app fatigue. People may not be downloading all these apps. Website going might introduce some friction, right? Versus if you just start to think subtly, I would just open my mobile phone and probably send a message rather than going to a website to achieve the same. So that's the trend, and a lot of these companies across sectors, across spectrum, and across use cases, we are increasingly seeing people, and quite rightly looks like by 26, 27, it should go in that direction. I have to tell an example from a different industry. So I think for the first time in India, we would be able to say book flight tickets, on WhatsApp, right? The same thing that I've been doing on a website or say a mobile app, you would be able to do the same kind of engagement with customers, across their entire journey for an airline on WhatsApp. So the opportunities are immense, and it's more about everything that you could do on a website or a mobile app is completely possible to do on these messaging applications as well. So for a consumer electronics industry, each and everything at every touch point of customer during the entire journey, we generally call it as a pre-purchase, purchase, and a post-purchase journey. And that quite summarizes it, because a customer could fall in either of these phases, and each of these could quite be well leveraged for conversational messaging. And we are increasingly seeing brands coming up to terms and adopting this newer technology. It would depend on largely on their strategic intent, and like I see a lot of efforts are already being made. But that strategic intent and effort would help these sort of conversations come through across various journeys in the consumer electronics industry as well.
Right. And Bankim, if you could just give us some sense of, post-COVID, how much of the adoption what adoption have you seen for conversational messaging? What sort of clients, and how is business going for you as well in this space specifically?
No, absolutely. It's like I said, it's one of the fastest growing industries. You are growing year on year. As an industry overall, North America being the highest, but APAC is one of the fastest growing industries with almost 35% CAGR year on year. At Gupshup ourselves, just between the last year and this year, we have seen almost 5 to 7x increase in terms of a requirement for bot and conversational messaging. Of course, so when I say that, there's a lot which goes into the entire holistic thinking of a bot or in the entire messaging part of it, but purely in terms of clients coming back to us and asking for a conversational messaging to be incorporated into their various messaging channels, be it on a website or in WhatsApp, that's increased quite by at least 5-folds between the first 6 months of say 21 and 22.
Interesting.
And that's across spectrum, across industries. Is while BFSI, e-com are the very obvious ones to kind of adopt this because they have a huge customer base and would want to reach out to them at various points. But we are seeing increasingly across different spectrum, different industries, and for different use case, And it might not necessarily be just for customer and say a brand and customer, but the entire value chain, be it a distributor, be it a retailer. So at varied cases, we need to introduce that automation to enable that smooth engagement to happen.
Right, right. Great. Thank you so much for that answer, Bankim. Just moving on to Prashant, really, you discussed and you sort of shared various things that HP did when the pandemic struck, sort of moving to a lot of, virtual services. Could you share some more examples of, the current new age connected experiences that you're using to sort of reach out to customers across the entire product life cycle, really, given that some of these things are more acceptable by consumers today?
Sure, Sunira. So, see, I think if you think of it, the product life cycle really probably starts, before the customer starts his search, right? I always believe that it's the desirability of the brand or a voiced or an unvoiced need, which is really the start of the life cycle, and maybe not the product life cycle, but for the customer journey for sure, right? And I think the first connected experience, therefore, which we've been working on to solve for is first long form content, which helps build desirability, for the brand by participating in particular needs, right? So if you look at it over the last, 2 years, we've made significant investments into owned content platforms. So whether it's the Creators Garage, which takes care of unvoiced needs and content needs for creators. There is Print Learn Center, which works on helping learners. There is the Omen community, which today exists on YouTube for gaming, and that's where a lot of this conversation about the product, but led from a need, a felt customer need or an unvoiced need, as I said, starts off, right? So that's the place where we've possibly done a lot of content-led innovation. See, next is discovery of the product once you have a need already in mind. And today, that's where, and this is the quintessential middle of the funnel, right? That's where a lot of fragmentation of media has happened. So there are customers, for example, voicing specific needs on Quora. And we've therefore set up a program where we have product managers writing micro content on Quora and answering those questions. There are product managers writing blogs, talking a lot more about the product and what needs are those products supposed to meet, right? So that's the big change. Again, we've used a lot of technology to understand and meet product discovery needs on platforms like YouTube. So we use now machine learning technology to generate videos which can specifically ask for and answer questions which are like the long tail of content, the long tail of searches, which is happening on YouTube. And it's always not possible for a influencer-led content to be answering, those kind of queries because there are just too many of them. Yeah. So, and obviously all of this happens along with a lot of other interventions, like there are PR-led interventions, there is influencer-led interventions, which take care of, the head of the queries, but then there's a long tail which needs to be taken care of.
Right.
Yeah.
And I'm just wondering if this effort has been sort of ramped up post-COVID because consumers are generally spending more time on the internet looking for everything. So have you pushed more have you put more power behind some of these initiatives in the last 2 years?
No, absolutely. We've made them very, very consistent. So they are now part of our, baseline plans. And that's how you can scale these things. You can always do a one-time intervention and push back. Yeah. But then that doesn't help, right? And what has also happened is that post-COVID, the number of searches has gone up tremendously. Right. So especially in our case, access to a lot of IT hubs. IT hubs were the place where you solved a lot of these problems, right? You went to your Nehru place and asked somebody, hey, I've got a data transfer need, how do I solve it? Now, that access kind of went away. And therefore, customers adopted this new habit of just coming on the web and posting a query and then waiting for, either, usually they want, a community member to reply, but then that's an opportunity for the brand to intervene in, right? And then obviously there are shopping experiences where, we now, have built a capability to capture some intent offline and then online, and then connect the customer to a shopping expert in store, so that he can then really, solve for specific needs, or actually, provide advice on what's the right product for you to, kind of solve your need.
Right, interesting. So more content basically out there. So you're sort of occupying that space, which earlier went to offline retailers, and now you want to sort of occupy that space. Great. Nosh, I have the next question for you. As a legacy brand that has been understanding consumer needs for several years, how are you capturing opportunities in a digital-first industry 4.0 world?
Yeah, so thanks, Samira, for this question. Actually, we are celebrating our 125th year this time. So Godrej and Boyce is 125 years old. So it becomes a little difficult because, we have a huge legacy, and it's important to have our ear to the ground, not only listening to what our consumers and customer needs, but also catering to a large dealer network across the country. So we've got a huge dealer network across our B2C businesses. And of course, we've got several customers across our B2B businesses as well. So we have been leveraging data and insights to design products and services and campaigns that bring value to our customers and enrich their lives. So we have been looking at a design-led approach, and that has always led us to innovate to keep our customers at the center of everything we do. So one of the big things that we did was that the Smart Care number that we have, the single service number that we have, was launched as a one-stop solution to help create a better experience for our customers across all our B2C audiences. Godrej Interior, for that matter, which has been a very old brand into the furniture category, has been investing heavily in digital technologies, automation, processes, and people to build a robust omni-channel and an omnipresent furniture experience. So a lot of people feel that furniture is bought online, but there is a lot of things that also happens offline as well. And therefore, an omni-channel experience was very important in order to ensure that we give the consumers the right experience. So the consumers today prefer to browse online before making a purchase. And therefore, Godrej Interior has actually initiated a virtual and hybrid selling, contactless payment, virtual walkthroughs, room planners, product configurators, etc., in order to ensure the consumer has the right kind of experience when he comes online. And it is based, of course, on cutting-edge CGI. So consumers today not only want connected devices in order to achieve multiple goals, but for instance, security cameras, for instance, is going beyond preventing theft and burglary. And you can monitor your home, specifically your old parents, and from virtually anywhere, including your kids. So in Godrej Security Solutions, we have launched a Spotlight range of Wi-Fi cameras, which work on Amazon Web Services, and it is completely secure in order to ensure that the data of a consumer is kept secure. But you can stream it, and you can view your parents, your kids, or your house, wherever you are in the world, and ensure that your data is not going to be, compromised on. So a lot of these with respect to product visualization is also something that we do. During the pandemic, where brands are looking at fostering authentic and personal relationships with their customers, we leveraged influencer marketing as well to drive better consumer connect. So using influencers to help communicating our brand values and image to the customer in a more relatable manner is what we do. In fact, at Godrej Locks, we also launched a series of digital locks, which are contactless, which are biometric, etc. And we also set up a carpenters engagement program, which was one of the first, that is GLCC, which is a Godrej Locks carpenter program. And we also launched what is called as GVLC, which is Godrej Vishesh Labh Club, to reward this community. So a series of initiatives have been done. In fact, I'll give you a B2B example now, since I've talked a lot about B2C. For B2B businesses like Godrej Material Handling, which is forklifts, in order to handle the customers and give a better visibility of the forklift, we introduced our own fleet management system called as SafeLog. And the prime aim of SafeLog was to provide customers with live data and preliminary analysis, which can help get insights of their MHE operations. Similarly, in order to make sure that the lives of the forklift operators is made better, we introduce a lot of cameras with AI functions, which help them to, install a lot of equipment, even at a huge height, where the visibility is very low. So there are a lot of things that we did across B2C and B2B, and it is very important to keep on innovating and ensuring that you understand your consumers better, specifically when you are a 125-year-old legacy brand.
Right. Great. Thank you so much for your detailed response. Moving on, Balaji, just wanted to get some perspective from you. Today QR codes seen on product packages have become pretty common for consumers, especially consumer interactions. So can next-gen packaging solutions assist in lead generation, assisted sales, and even product discovery? It's for Balaji.
Yeah, absolutely. I think while we are building great products, it's and buying stuff either online or offline, it's such a simple, obvious thing to deliver these goods in the most remote place in the world without impacting the product itself, right? So there's quite a few things that's happening in that space. But I actually want to share an example again. Go back in history about 80, 90 years back. A couple of engineers actually built a certain set of air-filled wallpaper design, right, in the US, and then they tried to market it. It was a huge flop, right? And no one was using it as a wallpaper behind that because it looked weird. And then they went on iterating on it, etc. And then finally spoke to a bunch of folks at IBM who were shipping those big devices then, computing devices, right? And then now it's a world famous bubble wrap, right? You won't even imagine that the original thinking was to create a nice looking wallpaper for your walls, right? So packaging has gone a long way from then to now, right? Now we are talking about eco-friendly packaging. You don't need to throw the box, or either you can recycle it, or you can use for example, the telephone or whatever, like a mobile phone or any other a handheld device, like a tablet, etc. The box can actually double up as a little stand, right? When you're watching it on a table, etc., you can just put the mobile on top of it, and then you can watch a little show on it, right? You don't need to buy the holder that we usually have in our cars, right? So that's an example of a simple innovation there. But beyond that, right, QR codes, I think, are wonderful technologies, right? They've kind of democratized the way we are doing payments, specifically in India, right? And also sharing information, right? Most of the packaging comes with a lot of regulatory material, a lot of marketing material, and a lot of product-related material, right? And a little QR code there. And most of us don't scan it, but there is a lot of little innovation that's happening on that, right? So one is people link it to support. Very important, right? Let's say you're buying a washing machine and you want to set it up, probably you can just scan the QR and then call a technician to install it, example. Or you're buying a new gadget, I don't know if you've heard of the Samsung Freestyle projector, the new one that kind of goes 360-degree. Wow, right? Now it's a new product. Most of us would want to probably check out a demo video of it first before using it, right? So you can just scan a QR and then use it, right? Or in other places, even probably register for your warranty, right? Or get a digital warranty card, etc. So the QR code actually really opens up a lot of connection between the real package and the digital presence of the product, right? So it's a wonderful thing. I actually want to, in the second part of your question on the innovations on packaging, right? I actually, I'm pretty excited about a bunch of innovations that is happening both at Samsung, in our competitors, a lot of startups globally as well that are focusing on some of these things, right? For example, how can manufacturers ensure, let's say I'm shipping a costly TV, right? How can I ensure that the damage is close to zero, right? I mean, if you go and talk to a logistics person, they would know the complexities of ensuring such a thing, right? Nothing bad about the airline industry, but all of us have seen how they throw our packages, or many of them, right? So how do you ensure that that one person, right, who had a bad day is not throwing off my TV, while the rest of the supply chain actually managed to get it safely, right? So one person can literally break my TV, right? So how do you ensure that you identify and take corrective measures on such thing, right? Like, I mean, can we use like IoT related stuff for packaging? Can we use RFID related? It's being used already, but can we use it for more sophisticated use cases, right? Specifically in costlier consumer electronics. The other one is like people are also buying gold today online, right? Be it a gold coin or even jewelry. So how do you ensure safe delivery of it, no tampering, right? If you've seen, like, they use very rudimentary old techniques of putting like a plastic wrap on it, and if it's it has to be cut only once, and to open it, you can't open it and then close it again, right? Good, it works perfect. It's a tamper-proof seal, but can we do some innovation on that, right? So the world is open there, or other things like let's say I'm in a store, let's say on an electronic store, and I want to experience a phone or even any other product for that matter. Can I go there and then scan a QR, which will create a augmented reality or a virtual reality kind of a frame on my mobile, and I can actually experience it, right? I can even figure out, like, be it buying a garam masala to a costly phone, how can I actually figure out what is inside that package, right? So yeah, there's like a lot of possibilities here.
Right.
And then your third part of the question was around, I believe, on cross-selling and sales, etc. as well, right? That's also great, right? Like, especially in the online world, let's say if I'm buying a shirt from Myntra, and possibly if the supply chain costs are manageable, Myntra can probably sell either cross-sell, like probably it can even send a lovely pair of trousers for me to select, right? And I'm not purchased it, but if it matches well and it's probably good, I like it, I'll probably take it, right? I can just pay right there. Or like size corrections, right? Like typically, I don't know if it's whatever, right? Like 25 or 24 or 26, right? So my clothing store can actually ship like +1 or -1 also, and then instead of me getting it, wearing it, and then returning and then getting a new one in one go, like I could probably do it, right? Like, it is a burden on the supply chain. I'm simplifying it too much. It is a burden. It's an extra shipping cost and a return cost. But yeah, but why not, right? If you can solve a different problem, you're making a wow experience for a consumer, right? Or even like, let's say you're ordering food on Swiggy, right? Good old, let's say, paneer butter masala, and Swiggy knows that hey, this restaurant, the paneer butter masala is good for 3 people, whereas there are 4 people at your home. So Swiggy can probably suggest like, you know what, you might need a little more of it, right? Or it can automatically increase the quantity, and of course increase the pay also, right? So there is a lot of innovation that we can do based on data that we have about the consumer, and personalize it. And like Prashant was saying, right, like a lot of heuristics and machine learning can go into it to actually kind of scale it well for across multiple millions of customers there.
Right. I'm just curious, you spoke so much about QR codes. Do you have any data as to how many customers of Samsung actually use QR codes in packages? Is there a data point you have available?
Might be very less. I don't have a specific number on top of my mind. But what I know is, for payments, I know, of course, all of us know that number, but it's like 200%. But for packaging, but for packaging, what we have seen is, certain, it also depends on the specific item that we are buying, right? Like in general for consumer electronics like washing machines, refrigerators, etc., the scan is more. Whereas for mobile phones, it is less. My guess is because like people are so used to mobile phones that they don't want to go read additional stuff. Probably for a refrigerator or washing machine, they're interested in reading more about it.
Sure.
Yeah.
I just wanted to.
So just to add, so actually
Yeah.
our learning has been that so familiarity with QR codes obviously has like increased multiple times, right? It's actually not so much about the QR code. It's actually about your call to action. So when we see the difference in usage and across, I mean, the same Times of India front page, if you have a call to action, which creates enough intent and desirability, you see scans which are in, to say 100x of what, if you just hang around a QR code,
yeah.
I mean, why should I scan it? Probably right.
Interesting. So it's over and above product information, just creating a compelling proposition around it will help.
Yeah.
I think all of us have also seen the success of Coinbase had run a campaign Super Bowl, which kind of got rave reviews. And then even during our own IPL, there was a company that was running QR code with a cryptic message, and people ended up scanning it, right?
Exactly.
So it does create a lot of curiosity for people to know what is behind this QR. Hey, especially when you put it on TV.
Yeah.
I've also seen a lot of TV ads or even TV channels which are trying to raise funds, let's say for donations or food causes, etc. They put a QR code right there during the ad, right? So it's a wonderful way that people are actually interacting back with the system.
Right. Great. Sort of my last question is to Bankim here. Really, what according to you is the future of connected packaging for the consumer electronics industry in India?
All right, Sunira. So, see, a lot of things are happening. So when you talk about, packaging, right? So especially in the e-commerce space, there are many companies across industries which are coming forth. They have a lot of competition. In fact, if you look at YouTube, there's a different trend, right? Well, a lot of videos which are about unboxing and showing you the package of those specific products, and those are being watched by millions, right? So all of these, I think, are increasingly making companies to really look at packaging and differentiate out there, not only in terms of the overall look and feel, but the kind of experiences that a user can have. So if I look at it right now, a lot of this electronics industry, I think they are using on and off QR codes. I could see here, at some places, but as of now, it's still an option for them, right? But probably since the question is about, future of connected packaging, probably a year down the line, you would see that with the larger adoption and, larger customer engagement with the right, in fact, what Prashant just mentioned and, Balaji as well, it's quite right in terms of the right call to action and the way you are strategizing. And that's what we talk to a lot of our clients and tell them. In fact, I'll showcase a small case study we did on the same lines. So, so that's what, so probably a year or so down the line, it would, turn out to be that FOMO phenomenon that we say, which is like, fear of missing out, right? So as more and more people come onto this, rightly connected packaging interfaces trying to differentiate themselves, we see more and more of these connected packaging and very diverse use cases, also coming forth, right? So if I broadly look at, say future, I could, think on, three different lines. The very first thing is, connected packaging. Since it's about, talking about consumer electronics as an industry, you could, of course, look at, connected packaging. So having, say, QR codes on those specific package or products. You could also look at, connected stores. I think like Balaji touched upon. So we could have those specific stores which have a QR code and, what are the use cases out there. And then, lastly was, mentioned by Prashant, I think, those, we could have those advertisements in newspapers. Those could also have the right intent and, with the right CTA, they could lead to very large scans, and they could, give that sort of a conversational messaging experience as if they are right there at the store and then talking to a live agent, right? So if I briefly touch this upon, if you look at more from a connected packaging, chances are if you buy a water purifier now, it has a QR code, and that QR code would lead to a support bot wherein you can raise a request, or you could raise your AMC request, and so on. Those kind of things are there. If you look at say laptops or all these appliances, consumer electronics, so like for me, if I have to raise a request for let's say an Apple support, I always forget the customer care number. I even don't know where I have saved it on my mobile phone, by what name, and many times I have to struggle figuring out because it's not a regular requirement. It probably takes me a few months of time to go back again to the support. So in that case, if there had been a QR code, right, it introduces the next level of frictionless experience, right? We already spoke about the other two. One is being on the channel that user is most convenient with, so that erases one friction point. Then talking to them in the language, right, that removes other friction point. And now easy discovery, right, that probably removes even the third friction point. So the entire engagement with with the support system of a lot of this electronics would become extremely frictionless on all three fronts. So these are something that could be done on connected packaging, not only for say laptops, like mentioned earlier, it could be on refrigerators, on washing machine, that anytime you need to have certain support requests being raised, either for a service request, for a demo, for an installation, right, or even for feedback and reviews for the matter. In fact, there's a lot of talk as to how consumer appliances, let's say, versus if you look at as an IT industry, right, there's a term which is called continuous deployment. So every time you have a certain action taken on Facebook, for example, it analyzes what you have done and what the users are doing in general, and based on that, it knows what features to keep and what features to kind of erase out in due course. So it's a continuous deployment that's happening. So having this kind of QR code across all of this packaging could as well lead to those scenarios wherein maybe not extremely continuous, but with even with certain time lapses, you keep getting those feedback that could help you improve those experiences with the customer and help innovate your products. So having QR code on packaging could probably be first part of it. But like I mentioned, the two other parts. One is about the connected stores, right? So in stores, I see, in fact, as we speak, I know a few appliances, right? If you go to the store, you could purchase the product. They have a QR code. You scan it out there. You raise a demo installation request, and you get the job card right out there on your messaging app, right? So that's one of the use case. But a use case that I would say quite a preference of mine in terms of where things could go. Imagine at any of these MBO multi-brand outlets, you are hunting for, let's say, a refrigerator, washing machine, or an AC, and instead of a person out there who is guiding you through each and every refrigerator as to what are the features, what are the nuances, and how is it better compared to other, and so on and so forth, you have a QR code, and that QR code would actually act as that support agent who is out there, right? And now we have the technology, and a lot of things are being brought. So we do a lot of innovations at GovShop, and this is one of the things that we are currently working on, making an entirely holistic solution across different channels in a much more conversational way. So you could actually probably we speak to a live agent, right? So if you have to replicate that experience on without the live agent, the support man out there, right? You would scan a QR code, you would voice your request that, hi, tell me the feature of this, say, washing machine. And that gets converted from a speech to text. It's analyzed with certain data already trained. It comes back with a certain response, and again voiced out in a voice format, right? So it's as if you're talking to the agent, and you can even ask, as things are moving forward in the field of AI, you can ask complex questions that, how is this refrigerator different, than the other one, right? And you can get an answer in the box. So it's a huge, immense potential for such use cases also to develop and to probably be a game changer in the way customers experience the retail experiences are going right now, right? So if I may just touch upon the last bit, so we have connected packaging, we have connected stores, and like I mentioned, like touched upon having a newspaper ad with a QR code, with I think Prashant quite rightly touched upon. We did a small survey in Mumbai. What we wanted to analyze, what is the kind of QR code traction or that people are having when they see the right message across different outdoor formats. We took right from outdoor hoardings at very crowded locations in Mumbai. In case you're aware of Mumbai, it was in Andheri Link Road. Then we took certain metro inventories. We took inventories on the metro platform. We took the airports. We took the Ola cabs, and certain other inventories at strategic locations. And we tried to analyze if people are really scanning the QR code. Right, there's the first bit of the puzzle that we wanted to solve. And quite rightly, we saw that. I mean, if you have a right CTA wherein people are getting something valuable, it's very easy now for them to scan a QR code, right? So they would scan a QR code as long as it addresses their problem. And over a span of 1 month of a campaign, we saw that there was a continuous daily scan of QR code that was happening. Although we had very limited material, it was more of a survey project, but quite regular scans are happening. And as we speak, you will find, if you travel from Mumbai to Pune, for example, we'll find a lot of these QR codes being placed upon the trains as well. And
Right.
those trains have a QR code, and those are being leading to a much larger passenger engagement, wherein a person within the train can actually compete with others within the same train for certain quiz and prizes and stuff, just trying to make it engaging. So the larger point is that outdoor people are scanning outdoor surface as far as the right message. And if you now supplement this newspaper ads, let's say of washing machines, refrigerators, and mobile phones with the right QR code, with the right CTA, and after scanning, that leads to a right experience as well. Earlier, it used to be to a website, which are probably not as a customer would want. But now, if you lead it to a conversational messaging, as if it's talking to a friend and family, and having that informal, natural, and intuitive conversation, that would really cut the ice. And while QR code has been there in newspapers, I would say for at least a decade, it's been having on and off, I would say, a choppy experience. But it's the right CTA and the right content to present, it could make a world of a difference, right? So. Yeah, so I think use cases could vary, and very relevant support is a key use case that is quite relevant for consumer electronics per se, and that would include all these demos, service requests, installation, feedback, reviews, and so on. But the small trend that you're also saying is that a lot of companies in the consumer electronics space are also trying to set up their own D2C platform at some level. They are in the experimentation phase because the nature of the product is different. And but they are working out the D2C space. And if you can purchase or a specific product on a D2C website, there's full chance that you might also have a WhatsApp where you can do the same, right? WhatsApp enables a full commerce, by the way, and you can have an entire list of products being showcased on WhatsApp and purchased from WhatsApp without even leaving the WhatsApp interface, right? As an example. And same things are happening similarly on other channels like a Facebook Messenger, Instagram Message, and so on, right? So yeah, so broadly, I think these are the three areas of connected packaging, connected experiences, I would say, rather, in consumer electronics space. And if I were to sum it up, so initially, I think there will be larger adoption within stores as well as this packaging to get connected. In due course, I think a consumer experience would be enhanced by a lot of this conversational messaging with advancement in AI and NLP coming forth. So a lot of these, naturally intuitive conversation would start to happen. And gradually, like we talked about that live agent use case, so those things would also come to the picture. A lot of these systems would kind of get connected at the back end. So in the case of this airline, that example, right? So our tech team are continuously in touch because it does require a lot of at least integrations initially, right? So customers who are really the brands who really want to take up the engagement of customers to the next level, I believe they would have put in all the resources to kind of make those things happen, to stand out amongst the crowd and give those unprecedented experiences to their set of customers.
Right. Great, Bankim. I think this sort of brings us to the close of our session, but I would just ask our panelists to quickly wrap up, and sort of give their thoughts. I have a sort of singular question. So, as the sort of consumer electronics industry grows, will connected experiences with customers be a core part of the success of the industry? Prashant, starting with you, just to sort of wrap up your thoughts here, really.
Yeah, so I think there is definitely a case for elevating experiences overall for brands through connected experiences. I think we are moving into a world where a lot of these experiences will continue to be hybrid. They will not purely stay, connected or physical experiences. And yeah, that's what we have to design journeys and overall experiences for. Yeah.
Right. Meher, Nosh, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, so I think connected experiences will certainly provide consumers with a host of benefits. And at the same time, enterprises creating connected experiences will also benefit their bottom line by extracting the value of the data generated through the consumer journey. So the arrival of connected experiences facilitates a continuous feedback loop for enterprises, enabling them to access the value of their customers in real time. And of course, it is important for companies to embrace this new era of personalized, connected experiences to remain relevant. Thank you.
Thanks. Balaji, any thoughts on this?
Yeah, I think short answer is absolutely yes. A lot of trends are changing in the world, and more in our own lives, right, which we can relate to. More and more, we as users, we're going to have lesser and lesser time for literally everything that we do in life, and then lesser and lesser patience to consume content, etc. I mean, what used to be a movie has now become a little short video, TikTok video, right? So our patience is also running out. I don't know if it's for good or bad. I'm not commenting, but that's a fact. Which means, as a consumer, my time I take to discover a product, connect with the product, convince myself or someone else to buy a product, etc. Right? All of that has to happen extremely seamless in a connected fashion. So yeah, short answer is absolutely. It's very, very important.
Great. Just Bankin, any thoughts on this? Although you did elaborate this in your last answer, any closing thoughts?
Yeah, I think so. It remains the same, so my stance doesn't change from the last answer. So it's like companies that leverage connected experiences will be, able to ease the friction, and it's all about taking the customer experiences, making frictionless, to the next level. So this experience will only lead to, higher engagement, better loyalty, customer experiences, right? Which is going to up the entire engagement factor. So I think rather than an indicator, it's more like, would be a necessity, and it will only help industry meet, the numbers more seamlessly, the faster they engage, this connected experience is a part of their overall offering to the customers.
Great. So this brings us to the end of today's discussion. I would like to thank all our panelists for participating here with us and sort of sharing their really deep insights on the topic. And before I sign off, I would also like to thank Gupshup for partnering with us. So thank you all. You all have a good day. Great.
Thanks, Sunira, for being a great moderator.
Thanks a lot.
Thanks, Sunira. Thanks, everyone.
Thanks, everyone. Bye-bye.
Pleasure. Thank you.
Bye.